Thank you to Ranking Member Nadler for welcoming me back to the committee. Mr. Dunn, thank you for your testimony today, and I want to join my colleagues in expressing my condolence over your terrible loss. Since I last held a seat on this committee over 10 years ago, our country has undergone some of its most turbulent years, from attacks on our democracy to increasing gun violence, including 4 mass shootings in my home state of California in just the last week, to continuing acts of racial injustice. Many of the issues that Americans are most concerned about fall within this committee's jurisdiction. But instead of tackling those concerns or joining Democrats in a comprehensive immigration reform, many Republicans in Congress seem intent on demonizing migrant families and asylum seekers, portraying them as fentanyl traffickers and violent criminals. In the real world, asylum seekers are vulnerable individuals and families fleeing political persecution and torture. And these terrible stereotypes that my Republican colleagues are peddling have real-world consequences and bring real-world harm as they increase the level of hate and violence directed at immigrants here at home. More than that, let me just take this opportunity to recognize the many immigrants who risked their lives during the pandemic to take care of us when we were sick in the hospital with COVID.
So Adam Schiff there just made the accusation against Republicans that they're making it up. It's just all, hyperbole. It's stereotypes they're talking about people at the border. Tom Homan, former acting ICE director, and Fox News contributor Brandon Judd, National Patrol Council president, along for the hour on this. Brandon, are Republicans lying? Are they stereotyping? What's going on?
There's very few things that make me upset, more upset than hearing what Adam Schiff just said. That is complete and total lies. It's fabrications. It's deflection. He's saying that these people are fleeing political persecution. That's not true. The vast majority of these people do not have a legitimate claim. They get released into the United States, and then they don't show up to their ultimate court appearances. They disappear into the shadows of society. That's a term that President Obama coined. If they had a true claim, they would show up to all of their court appearances. They would go through the entire process. The vast majority do not. Schiff is simply deflecting because he knows that that's what the base wants to hear. He's playing politics with United States citizens' lives, and that's disgusting.
Tom, when I was down on the border right before the end of the fiscal year, the end of September, when the numbers were really about to be in those historic categories that they are now of people coming here illegally, one of the things we saw was the cartels were putting camo on people so they could sneak into this country at night. Some of them were very young. They had satchels. We had to watch them go through these very, very carefully because some people had weapons on them. I didn't imagine any of that. I certainly don't need to be trafficking and stereotyping. Of course, I'm not a lawmaker. Why go there at a Capitol Hill hearing? What is going on?
Well, let me just continue what Brandon was saying, because it's important. Adam Schiff just lied to the American people. You can call them asylum seekers, but the numbers are clear. 93% of them never get relief from U.S. courts because they either don't qualify, don't show up. And as Brandon said, over half of them do not show up. And what they're doing in creating this crisis is there are people in this world that need asylum in the United States, that are really escaping fear and persecution from their home government, but now they're in the back seat because these people are committing asylum fraud. I want your viewers to know this. When you enter the country illegally, it is a crime. When you lie under oath during an asylum hearing, it is a felony. And when you ignore a judge's order and not get removed and hide and go into hiding, then you become a fugitive. People need to understand, the Secretary's Homeland Security report says this: if you're in detention, in ICE detention, you get order removal, you're removed 99% of the time. The reason this administration is not detaining these folks is because the same report says if you're not in detention and you get order removed, you leave 6% of the time. So Adam Schiff, if he wants to be factual to American people, vast majority is asylum fraud, vast majority gets order removed, but they're not removed because Secretary Mayorkas will not allow ICE to go seek them out and arrest them. He said under oath, if they don't qualify for asylum, they'll be immediately removed. I can tell you this, ask ICE how many people have lost their case, 93%. How many have they removed? That's pretty close to zero.
Wow.
That's the fact Adam Schiff should be telling the American people.
Yeah, fact-checking real time from the former acting ICE director. And, the point that I was making, Brandon, as well, I've heard it against the media. I just haven't heard lawmakers accuse other lawmakers of, oh, you guys are just, this is hyperbole, and we've got the video. You just heard Tom Homan with the facts of that, and you've got the facts. How is this? Yeah, let's go ahead and show it. My team is asking, can we show some of that nighttime video? How do we go again? I mean, the cartels are preparing these people almost for war. You're sneaking in camo, and we know people have gotten harmed. Some of them have been carrying weapons. What's your thought on all of this, Brandon?
Yeah, and Adam Schiff wants to say that that individual right there that's wearing camouflage, that's an asylum seeker? I mean, that's crazy to listen to what he's currently saying. Yeah, I mean, that's all they have. All they have is rhetoric. They do not have facts. Facts matters, and facts is what the American people need to hear about. And if they heard the facts, they would be extremely upset. But because he's able to deflect, because he's able to use political rhetoric, then the American people, they don't understand what's going on unless they're watching your show. And that's what's got to change. But then you go back and you look right there. That's Texas DPS. That's not Border Patrol. Texas DPS is pulling resources out of what they're supposed to be doing our job. Cochise County is pulling resources out of the field to do our job. We should be doing that job, not other law enforcement agencies. And that also destabilizes and makes less safe all of the people in the counties, Cochise County, and in the state of Texas. This is crazy what is going on, and to listen to Adam Schiff, it becomes even crazier.
Yeah. Tom, just a quick word from you about what needs to happen next. I mean, the hearing is excellent because now we get to see Republicans holding people accountable as best they can. But really, where are we in this fight?
They need to have oversight hearings. They need to call Secretary Mayorkas in and the agency heads, especially the political appointees. Here's the bottom line. Under the Biden administration, because they opened the border up, the most vulnerable people in the world put themselves in the hands of criminal cartels to come to our country. Here's the results. Over 109,000 Americans have died from fentanyl overdoses because fentanyl's coming across the border. Over 1,700 migrants have died on U.S. soil, a record. And we have a record in sex trafficking of women and children across the border.
All right, I'm going to step in right there. We're going to go back to this hearing. That dad who lost his son is being questioned right now. Let's watch.
You guys have been active now in a number of organizations trying to get out and understand the lost voices of fentanyl. Is that right?
Yes.
Worked with Ms. Virginia Krieger.
Yes.
And she's lost her daughter due to Percocet that was laced with fentanyl. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the people that have been the lost faces of fentanyl, I've done this before. Noah is one of these lost voices due to fentanyl now.
He is now. I'm not sure if he's included in that picture.
And these pictures are the faces of Americans who are no longer with us due to fentanyl flowing throughout our communities. Now, these are young individuals who are not here today. Now, Noah's not here today. Do you care precisely whether or not fentanyl is coming through ports of entry or between ports of entry, or was your family directly impacted because fentanyl is flooding into our communities one way or the other?
However it gets here, it's here.
And in your experience talking to other family members and talking to law enforcement personnel, is it your observation and belief that the overwhelming flood at our borders, distracting Border Patrol from being able to carry out their duty to stop the flow between the ports of entry or do inspections at the ports of entry, is resulting in more fentanyl pouring into our communities that is then resulting in the death of Americans and, in fact, the death of migrants in the process?
Yes, most of the fathers that I speak with that are not as vocal as the mothers, the common thing they've expressed to me is to come up here and let people know that it's a border issue. It's not an immigration issue. It's flooding across the borders because there's a problem at the borders.
In your communication with families who have lost loved ones due to fentanyl poisonings, do you believe that it is an imperative that this country's federal government, who has a constitutional obligation to secure the border of the United States, do so in order to ensure that we stop the flow of fentanyl and dangerous and illicit narcotics into the United States, resulting in the death of Americans?
Yes.
Do you believe that if this country adopted policies that enabled us to restrict and stop the flow of fentanyl, and that includes ensuring that we have no longer a flood of human beings at our border, while still maintaining asylum laws and protecting people who are being persecuted under actual threat of persecution for their religious and political beliefs, do you believe that stopping the flow of individuals, enabling Border Patrol to stop fentanyl, that is a critical imperative, and if that were adopted, would help save lives like Noah's?
I do, and most others that I talk with feel the same way.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. Thank you, Janelle. I yield back.
Time has expired. The gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Cicilline.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses, and particularly thank you, Mr. Dunn, for being here. And I, too, join my colleagues in expressing.
We're going to bring back Tom Homan, former acting ICE director and Fox News contributor, and Brandon Judd, National Border Patrol Council president. When you see Representative Chip Roy of Texas hold up picture after picture, so many young faces, Brandon, you talked about the humanity coming across our border, but the artificial, the fake entry points that creates for the cartels to bring in drugs. Because when you're dealing with one, you can't be everywhere. They hit us someplace else.
Yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking to see the pictures of those people that lost lives when they could be alive today if we would actually do what's necessary. When you look at the way the cartels operate, when you look at the way that they use our policies against us, they use our operations against us, and if they didn't have those operations and policies, those individuals would be alive today. We have to look at this and we have to say, we have to reject Adam Schiff when he's saying that all of these people are just coming here for asylum. Okay, we will welcome in. Border Patrol agents would be the first. If people are actually fleeing for persecution, we would be the first to open up our arms. We are the most generous country in the entire world, and we should be the most generous country in the world. We want to save lives. We want to secure life. But this is not. That's not what's happening on the border today. What's happening on the border today is complete and total chaos, and it's killing U.S. citizens, and it must stop.
It's also endangering the lives of the people who are trying to come here for legitimate reasons, Tom, as you mentioned. They go to the back of the line behind all the people who are breaking the law to get in. And that original law that they break, entering our country illegally, no one talks about that. But that matters, too. We've got about a minute left. Tom.
Secure borders save lives. People want to attack the Trump administration as being inhumane. The secretary goes out there all the time saying, we're going to create a more humane policy. Wrong. When President Trump had immigration down 83% less people were making that journey. How many women weren't being sexually assaulted by the cartels? How many children didn't drown in the river? How many Americans didn't die of drug overdoses from fentanyl because Border Patrol was on the line and vigilant because the border was secure? They weren't processing thousands of people. The only humanity on that border are people like Brandon Judd, the 20,000 men and women that wear that uniform, that save thousands of lives, that brings toys from their children to facilities so the alien children can have toys to play with. Men and women of the Border Patrol are patriots, and this president has vilified them. They vilified the Horse Patrol. They vilified every man and women that wear that uniform. And it's a disgrace that the secretary has abandoned them, the president has abandoned them. I'll say it again. The only humanity on that border are the 20,000 men and women who wear that uniform and put their lives on the line for this country every day.
What you're looking at right now is some of that video that we captured live on the border not too long ago in Eagle Pass, Texas, the Del Rio sector, where people were running from Border Patrol to try to find a place to hide to get in this country. They don't want to play fair. How do you know? Because they run from our guys. Good to see you both. Thank you for being here to help me cover the live hearing. Outnumbered is next.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.